Graham Potter, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. It's an absolute pleasure. It's a brand new season all over again. That summer break just whizzed by really quickly. And in many ways, it also feels like the last couple of seasons has just moved very quickly in the middle of a pandemic. What has it been like for you, and what's the preparation like going into the new season?
No, it's been really good. I mean, I think for the first time it felt like we had a decent break. And whether that was because we finished the season off strong, but anyway, it felt like we had a good couple of weeks. I certainly did with my family, and then you take the time to recover and recharge, and then, like you say, get back to thinking about football and get back to preparing for the new season. And it comes and goes very quickly, and yeah, we're a couple of weeks away from the start, so it's exciting.
Speaking about the start, obviously it's a brand new Premier League season, and the Premier League just seems to get more and more competitive every year. I know we say this at the start of every season, but I mean, it really is true, right? Every season it just gets stronger. Now, I'm wondering, how does a club like Brighton cope with that increase? Because more and more clubs are having more resources, but Brighton, you guys want to compete, but at the same time maintain a sort of strategy and maintain club values. How do you guys do that?
Well, I think it's important to not compare yourself to anybody else, to understand that there are resources around and others are slightly different in terms of what they have. But for us, what's important is, our idea, how we want to play, and aligning the resources that we have to that idea. And so, using the money that we have and the resources that we have as wisely as possible. And that's how you can compete. We have to remember that the season, even though last year was historic and we had 51 points, there were times where we had to suffer. So that might be the case again, and how you come through those moments and stick together is really important for us. So I think that's how we approach it.
I want to talk about a player that has been such a fundamental part of Brighton's last few seasons. He's obviously now left the club, YVES Bissouma. He's been one of the most exciting players in Brighton over the last few seasons. Personally, I'm a big fan of midfielders, especially holding midfielders. So my eye has always been on Bissouma over the last few years. His growth over the last 3 years at Brighton has been great. Could you tell us, in his time at Brighton, what do you think he evolved the most? What do you think was his biggest quality that he became incredibly good at?
Well, I think when we first came to the club, he was seen as more an offensive midfield player. I would say more of an 8 or a 10. And I think as he spent more time with us and as he evolved himself, I think he became more of a defensive midfield player and more of a holding midfield player that was really good in defensive transitions, but also could take the ball and get the team moving in terms of how we're attacking. So I think it's a credit to him. He developed, like you said, over the course of the time, certainly with us. He grew up as a guy as well, and like anything, you miss anybody that when they leave, because you have a bond with them for 3 years, and but at the same time, it's life, it's part of football, and we wish him well in the next part of his career.
And with YVES officially leaving the club as well, I'm wondering if this is MOISES CAICEDO's chance. I'm wondering if he's the guy to really stamp his authority in the coming season and make that midfield spot absolutely his. Is CAICEDO the guy that you're really excited about for the coming season?
Well, he's one of the guys. I think that's important. I don't think it wouldn't be fair on anybody to say you're going to come in and be the direct replacement for Eves, because everyone's different. Everyone brings their own unique qualities to the team. So it's about using those, the likes of McAllister, Mwepu, Pascal, Adam Lallana, Stephen Alzati. There's different options there. So it's about how we function as a team, and we've always thought about it in that way. How can the team deal with the loss of an individual? And it's never about replacing an individual with an individual per se. It's about how the team functions.
I'm interested to talk a little bit more about MOISES CAICEDO, because we remember that performance that he put in against Arsenal last season. But even prior to that, before joining Brighton, I think a lot of football fans also remember him playing against Argentina, against Lionel Messi at an incredibly high level. And there was a lot of rumors that some of the biggest clubs on the European stage were keeping an eye out for him. And I'm wondering, how did you guys, jump ahead of the queue and manage to pull off the signing and convince him to come to be a part of the Brighton project?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm guessing the fact that he's a young player who's only 19, so to play in the Premier League in the central midfield, it's not so easy to do that. But we probably offered a chance for that to happen. We've done quite well in terms of developing players and giving young players an opportunity. So he could see the pathway and could see the possibility. Of course, he's a young man making a step from a completely different continent, let alone country. So he's having to adapt to everything off the pitch, as well as a new challenge, a new team, a new club, a new league, and a new style of play. So it's about finding the right balance between allowing him to have that settling in time and also time on the pitch. We were careful with him. He had a bit of a loan to gain some experience in Europe and came back and was just ready. We could always see his quality. We could always see what the potential he was. And now it's nice for him that he's playing. And yeah, we're excited about him for next year.
You obviously get a closer eye on him on a daily basis in the training ground. What is the one thing about Caicedo that you think is the most exciting part?
I mean, I would say he's a really humble guy that loves to play football, that loves to represent his family back home and does his best every day. I mean, I know you asked me for one thing, but I think that's probably the most important character and his application on a daily basis is really something special. Like I say, his humility as a human being it's nice. It's nice to see that in a young player playing at a really high level.
We spoke about the fact that Caicedo was one of those guys that attracted a lot of interest, and yet Brighton were able to pull off that signing. Very recently, Evan Ferguson came out and spoke in an interview about how he rejected Liverpool at a very young age to join the Brighton Academy, a decision he feels has been really vindicated at the moment. What do you think this says about Brighton as a club and even a footballing institution, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it's part of what we're trying to do in terms of back to that idea I spoke about. We have to give young players an opportunity. We have to give players from maybe below the level of the Premier League and give them a chance to develop and become Premier League players. We can't compete with those guys that you mentioned in terms of buying ready-made Premier League players. We have to be very careful with what we do with our resources, and as I said, part of that is young players. So it's nice that we can not just talk about it, but actually do it. The challenge is we're not a development club. We have to stay in the Premier League. We have to compete in the Premier League. So it's about getting wins and points on a Saturday or whenever we play, because our supporters, want that as well. So we have to understand the environment that we're in and the context we're in, but still keep an idea about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. It's really important for us.
I want to move on a little bit to talk about goals. Within the football analytics community on Twitter, Brighton are probably like one of the clubs that are the absolute darlings of the community, because over the last few years, I think critics have always just pointed out that Brighton, they've not broken the 42 goal barrier or so, but analytics community members have always come out and defended by arguing the XG numbers have always been high and the chances are consistently being created. And I'm curious to know, what is the game plan for Brighton this season when it comes to goal scoring? Because obviously in the last few seasons, it's always been around the 39 to 42 goal mark. This season, what do you guys plan to do to sort of break that barrier and score a lot more goals on the pitch?
Well, again, we have to remember that we're playing in the Premier League, and there's some Premier League defenders that try to stop you scoring. So you're talking about the hardest thing in the game to do, but I think we've made steps towards that. And like you say, they're quite random events goals, unless you've got the real quality that is the very, very top players. I think everybody finds them hard to come by. But for us, it's about the collective idea again. It's about how we function as a team, how we attack as a team. The more we're together, the more we work, the better that will be. I think that was evidence last year. So, but at the same time, there's a little bit of luck. There's the margins that you can't explain, which is the beauty of football. It's a low-scoring game, and it's, as I said, scoring goals is the hardest bit. So you need to, keep that in mind. But if you see how we attack, if you see the chances we create, there's things to be positive about there. It's just that final bit that we need to keep working with.
One final question, Graham. Marc Cucurella, he's obviously been Brighton's best player last season, so to speak. There's a lot of rumors going around him at the moment and his immediate future at the club. What's the situation like? Is he likely to leave? Is he most likely going to stay? And if he does leave, would it be a blow to the club, or are you guys well positioned to cope with that departure?
No, I think it's just part of life at this time of year when there's a lot of speculation, a lot of talk about players, especially when the team did well last year. You can understand that, but as I said, it's speculation. You'd spend a lot of time commenting on it. There's no point. There's nothing to say. There's nothing happened. It is what it is. We just have to get on and keep helping Marc enjoy his football and enjoy his time here with us at Brighton.
Okay, thank you so much, Graham.
No problem.
Thank you for taking
Thank
time
you.
to speak with us.